Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to have on the House floor House Bill 143. House Bill 143 honors Dan Fauske by naming the AHFC facility in Anchorage the Daniel R. Fauske Building. Mr. Speaker, Dan Fauske has achieved a number of accomplishments as the Executive Director and the CEO of Alaska Housing and Finance Corporation, and also as the President of the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation. But instead of listing all of his accomplishments, I would direct your attention to the biographical information that's included in your floor packets. Mr. Speaker, I've known Dan for over 17 years. I've worked with him on a number of issues, including AHFC programs, like the home heating program and the homeowner's energy rebate, just to name a few. But in particular, Mr. Speaker, Dan and I have a history of developing a natural gas line to supply Alaskans with natural gas. The original bill started the process in the House was House Bill 369. It required that a team of professionals be established to look into providing gas to Alaskans. And Mr. Speaker, at that time, we weren't sure who was the guy to lead that process. One name kept popping up time and time again, and that was Dan Fauske. So I called Dan and asked him if he'd be interested. The response was typical of Dan, in that he was ready to help anytime, in any way whatever possible. Mr. Speaker, as it turns out, this is the best choice we could have made. Dan devoted countless hours and energy into putting together the report, which led to the further efforts that resulted in establishing the Alaska Gas Development Corporation. And Dan was in his norm. He picked the best available individuals to form the team that AGDC and started the process of building a gas line. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who to attribute this to, but there was a newspaper article. Dan and the corporation went to Fairbanks to talk about a gas line for Alaska. And there was either a newspaper article or an editorial. And in that editorial, they called Dan Superman, after he took both of the monumental jobs at the same time. And since that article came out, I jokingly referred to Dan as Clark Kent. Well, Mr. Speaker, he performed all of his duties with superhuman efforts. I'm not too sure that there's many in the state who could have taken on both the challenges and performed at such a high professional level. Mr. Speaker, Dan always answered the call and was ready to assist in any way possible. There isn't a community in this state, from Barrow to Unalaska to Ketchikan to South Central Alaska, that has not been affected by Dan Fauske through his days as either a financial director at the North Slope Borough or through AHFC or AGDC. Mr. Speaker, if I may read an excerpt from a letter of support that characterizes Dan to a T.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we got this letter, and I believe it's all in your packet. But it starts out in 1995, I was employed as a legislative aide to the LB&A chairman and was assigned to work on a bill to liquidate Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. The legislative auditor and myself presented the bill to the other body's finance committee in its first hearing in early March. Members on the committee indicated unanimous support for the bill that morning. And just before entertaining a motion to move the bill, the chairman asked if anyone wanted to testify. To everyone's surprise, an unknown man in the back of the room raised his hand and came forward. "Good morning, Mr. Chairman," he said. "My name is Dan Fauske, and I'm the CEO of the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. This is my second day on the job." After the laughter subsided, Dan explained his familiarity with bond credit ratings and capital markets, and rather than advance a bill that would have liquidated about $800 million out of AHFC, the Finance Committee chose to give Dan a chance to prove his words. And I guess, Mr. Speaker, the rest is history. Under Dan Fauske's management, AHFC paid more than $800 million to the State General Fund in cash dividends, and at the same time, AHFC's credit rating were increased while purchasing billions of dollars in home mortgages, veterans loans, and multifamily developments. AHFC remains a strong and public corporation today. Mr. Speaker, I could go on and on about Dan's accomplishments and my acquaintances with Dan, but I'll stop here. I'm proud to have this bill before us today that will honor an outstanding Alaskan and a man that I'm honored to call my good friend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.